The deep space exploration vessel, Horizon Seeker, drifted silently through the void between stars, its sensors scanning the endless dark for signs of new worlds and civilizations. Captain Eleanor Ross stood at the bridge's observation window, her weathered face reflected against the backdrop of distant stars. 20 years of deep space exploration had left silver streaks in her dark hair, but had done nothing to dim the curiosity in her eyes. The ship's AI, DART, broke the contemplative silence. "Captain, I'm detecting an unusual transmission on multiple frequencies. It appears to be a distress signal, but the encoding is unlike anything in our database." "Put it through," Eleanor commanded, turning to face the holographic display that materialized before her. The message that emerged was a haunting combination of crystalline sounds and translated text, speaking of desperation and imminent extinction. Lieutenant James Chen, the ship's communications specialist, worked frantically at his console. "Captain, I've managed to clean up the signal. The message is from a species called the Kalari. They're being systematically exterminated." The bridge crew watched in horror as images began streaming through, crystalline beings of remarkable beauty, their translucent bodies housing swirling colors that seemed to dance with their emotions. Their cities were works of art, organic structures that grew from the ground like frozen fountains of light. But now those cities burned, shattered by the relentless bombardment of dark, angular ships that blotted out the skies. "The Varaxian Empire," growled Commander Viktor Petrov, the ship's tactical officer. "We've heard rumors about them from other civilizations. They believe in genetic purity and view any species too different from their own as a corruption that must be cleansed." Eleanor's jaw tightened as she watched a Kalari child, its crystal form flickering with fear, being shielded by what appeared to be its parent. Where are the Kalari's allies? Surely they have diplomatic relationships with other spacefaring races? According to the transmission, James replied, his voice bitter, their allies abandoned them. The Galactic Council deemed them evolutionarily unfit and denied them aid. They're alone. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The Horizon Seeker was an exploration vessel, not a warship. They had minimal weapons, designed more for clearing space debris than combat. Yet they were listening to the death knell of an entire civilization. Dr. Olivia Thompson, the ship's xenobiologist, spoke up from her station. "Captain, the Kalari are unique in our records. Their crystalline biology allows them to store and process information in ways we've barely theorized about. They're natural archivists, carrying the history and knowledge of their entire species within their very bodies. If they die, we lose not just a species, but an entire universe of knowledge," Eleanor finished. She stood straighter, her decision already made. "DART, calculate the fastest route to the Kalari home system. Commander Petrov, begin combat simulations. I want options for how an exploration vessel can fight capital ships. Dr. Thompson, prepare your labs for crystalline biology. Lieutenant Chen, send a message to Earth Command informing them of our intentions." "Captain," James hesitated, "Earth's official policy is non-intervention in conflicts beyond our space." Eleanor's eyes flashed. "Then it's a good thing we're an exploration vessel, James. Our mandate is to seek out new life and civilizations. We've found one, and they need our help. If Earth wants to court favor with the Galactic Council, that's their choice. But I won't let an entire species die because they're different." She turned to address the entire bridge crew. "I know what I'm asking. This isn't our fight. We're scientists and explorers, not soldiers. But sometimes the greatest discoveries come from choosing to act when others won't. The Kalari are being exterminated because they're different, because they don't fit someone else's idea of what life should look like. If we turn away, if we let this happen, then we're no better than those who abandoned them." The crew shared looks, a mixture of fear and determination in their eyes. Then Dr. Thompson stood. "I didn't come to space to watch civilizations die. One by one, other crew members nodded their agreement. "Dart," Eleanor called out, "send a response to the Kalari. Tell them." She paused, choosing her words carefully, "Tell them that humanity has heard their call. And we're coming to help." As the Horizon Seeker altered course, its engines flaring to life, Eleanor watched the stars shift before them. She knew they were probably racing to their deaths, an exploration vessel against an empire. But humanity had a long history of beating impossible odds, of standing up when others fell back. Perhaps that's why they were out here in the first place, not just to find new life among the stars, but to protect it. The ship accelerated, carrying its crew of scientists and explorers toward a war they never trained for, but a cause they couldn't ignore. In the darkness of space, hope traveled with them, hope that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in martial might or political power, but in simply choosing to do what's right, no matter the cost. The message from Earth Command arrived exactly as Captain Eleanor Ross had expected. The holographic projection of Admiral Harrison's face wore an expression of carefully controlled fury as he delivered Earth's official response. "Captain Ross, you are ordered to stand down immediately. The Horizon Seeker is not authorized for military engagement. Return to your designated exploration route or face court-martial." Eleanor terminated the transmission without responding. She turned to her crew, gathered in the ship's main conference room. "Well, that's Earth's position. Anyone want to change their mind?" Commander Viktor Petrov let out a gruff laugh. "They can court-martial us after we save the Kalari." He gestured to the tactical display showing their progress through space. "I've been running combat simulations. Our shields were designed to withstand stellar phenomena. With some modifications, they might hold against Voraxian weapons. At least long enough to matter." Dr. Olivia Thompson spoke next, her dark eyes bright with excitement despite their situation. "I've been analyzing the Kalari biological data they transmitted. Their crystalline structure isn't just beautiful, it's incredibly resilient. With the right frequency of energy shield, we might be able to protect them during evacuation better than we initially thought." "That's assuming we can even reach them," Lieutenant Chen interjected, his fingers dancing over his datapad. "But I might have some good news on that front. I've been reaching out to the independent human colonies, the ones that broke away from Earth's authority. They're interested." Eleanor leaned forward. "Interested how?" "The new Mars Coalition has 7 ships they're willing to commit. Mostly retrofitted mining vessels, but their hulls are tough. Europa Free State is offering 3 of their ice runners, fastest ships in the solar system. And Titan Base." James smiled, "They're sending their entire defense fleet. 5 warships." The room burst into excited murmurs. Eleanor raised her hand for silence. "Why? They don't know the Kalari. They have no stake in this fight." "Actually, Captain," Dart's artificial voice joined the conversation, "I believe they do. I've been analyzing the patterns of Voraxian expansion. Their path of conquest is systematic. If they succeed in eliminating the Kalari, the independent human colonies would likely be their next target. Earth might be protected by its Galactic Council connections, but the colonies would be just as alone as the Kalari are now," Eleanor finished. "James, tell them we accept. Have them rendezvous with us at the coordinates I'm sending now." She turned to her chief engineer. "Marcus, what have you got for us?" Marcus Rivera, his hands stained with engine grease, projected a schematic. "We've stripped out all non-essential systems to make room for refugees. The cargo holds can house about 3,000 Kalari if we pack them tight. But there's something else." He manipulated the display, showing a modification to their engines. "The Kalari sent us their scientific database as part of their distress call. Their understanding of crystalline structures gave me an idea. We can modify our warp field to resonate with their biology. Might give us an edge when we're trying to evacuate them." The door to the conference room slid open, admitting Security Chief Diana Wolf. Her usually stoic face showed signs of rare enthusiasm. "Captain, the crew's combat training is progressing. We're not soldiers, but..." She allowed herself a small smile. Scientists can be surprisingly creative when motivated. Dr. Patel from Xenobotany figured out how to turn his sample preservation unit into a pretty effective particle weapon. Eleanor nodded, feeling a surge of pride in her crew. In the week since they'd received the Kalari distress call, these scientists and explorers had transformed themselves. They weren't becoming soldiers, they were becoming something else, something that combined their scientific brilliance with a fierce determination to protect. "How long until we reach Kalari space?" she asked. 3 days at maximum speed, Dart replied. "The colonial ships will rendezvous with us just before we enter the system." "Captain, the latest Kalari transmissions indicate the Varaxian fleet is growing. They're bringing in reinforcements." "Of course they are," Eleanor said grimly. "They can't allow news of resistance to spread. It would damage their image of inevitability." She stood, looking at each member of her crew. "What we're attempting goes beyond saving one species. The Varaxians have built their empire on the belief that difference equals weakness, that those who don't fit their definition of pure deserve extinction. By standing with the Kalari, we prove them wrong." She walked to the window, watching the stars streak by. "Humanity's greatest strength has never been our technology or our military might. It's our diversity, our adaptability, our willingness to stand up for what's right even when it's not convenient. The Kalari are different from us in almost every way, and that's exactly why we have to save them." The crew murmured in agreement. Eleanor turned back to them. "We have 3 days. I want every possible advantage we can create. We're not soldiers, and we're not going to try to be. We're going to be scientists, explorers, and innovators. And we're going to show the galaxy that sometimes the strongest defense comes from those who were never meant to fight at all." As the meeting dispersed, Eleanor remained at the window. Somewhere ahead, a crystalline species waited in desperate hope, while a dark fleet gathered to complete their extinction. But racing through the void to meet them was something the Varaxians hadn't counted on, a group of humans who had looked at an impossible situation and decided to try anyway. In 3 days, they would arrive. And the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their ships or their guns, but their absolute refusal to stand by while others suffered. The Horizon Seeker continued its course, carrying not just a crew, but a reminder that in the Kalari homeworld hung in space like a shattered crystal, its once pristine cities now scarred by orbital bombardment. The Horizon Seeker led a ragtag fleet of 16 ships into the system, their sensors already tracking the massive Varaxian battle fleet that loomed on the far side of the planet. "They've spotted us," Lieutenant Chen reported, his hands steady despite the tension. "Varaxian command ship is broadcasting. They're laughing at us." "Let them laugh," Eleanor responded, her voice steel. "Status of the civilian fleet?" "New Mars mining vessels are in position," Commander Petrov confirmed. "Europa ice runners are prepped for their runs. Titan warships are moving to screening positions." He paused, studying his tactical display. "The Varaxians have 32 capital ships, over 100 support vessels. We're outnumbered 6-1. Then we better make every ship count." Eleanor activated the fleet-wide channel. "All vessels, this is Captain Ross. You know why we're here. The Varaxians think numbers and firepower determine the outcome of battle. Let's show them what happens when humanity gets creative. Execute Operation Sanctuary. Good hunting." The human fleet split into its assigned groups. The mining vessels, their huge frames designed to crack asteroids, descended toward the surface using their reinforced hulls as shields against Varaxian fire. The ice runners, sleek and fast, darted between enemy formations, their superior maneuverability making them nearly impossible to target. First wave of mining ships has landed, Marcus reported from engineering. They're deploying the resonance fields now. The engineer had modified the mining vessel's rock-cutting beams to resonate with Kalari crystal structures, creating protective bubbles that would allow the fragile aliens to survive planetary evacuation. Dr. Thompson monitored the biological readings from her station. It's working. The resonance fields are stabilizing their matrix. First group of Kalari civilians is being loaded now. The Voraxian fleet, initially hesitant in the face of such an unusual attack, finally organized their response. Plasma torpedoes streaked across space, only to be met by the Titan warship's defensive screen. The battle was joined in earnest. "They're trying to pin us against the gravity well," Commander Petrov warned. "Standard Imperial tactics." "Then let's be very non-standard," Eleanor replied. "Dar. Patel, are your teams ready?" The xenobotanist's voice came over the comm, tight with excitement. "Ready, Captain. We've modified all the sample preservation units ships-wide. Just waiting for them to get close enough." The Voraxian ships pressed their advantage, their superior numbers allowing them to form an encircling pattern. Their commander's voice boomed across all frequencies, translated by Dart, "Your interference is futile. The Kalari are an aberration. Their destruction is necessary for the purity of the galaxy. Surrender now, and we may spare your lives." Eleanor smiled grimly. "Now, Dr. Patel." Across the human fleet, modified preservation units activated. Beams of concentrated organic material, flash-frozen and accelerated to near-light speed, lanced out toward the Voraxian ships. Where they hit, the organic matter exploded into rapidly growing crystalline structures, inspired by Kalari biology but weaponized by human ingenuity. The crystals spread across the Voraxian hulls, interfering with their sensors and weapons systems. Direct hits on 23 enemy vessels, Diana reported with satisfaction. Their formation is breaking up. The Ice Runners seized the opportunity, their precision pilots threading through the gaps in the Voraxian line to escort loaded mining vessels back to safety. Each successful run carried hundreds of Kalari to safety. But the Voraxians weren't finished. Their ships, though partially blinded, began firing indiscriminately. A mining vessel took a direct hit, its hull cracking. "Mining ship Olympus is hit," James called out. "They've got 300 Kalari on board." "Get me a channel to Olympus," Eleanor commanded. The ship's captain appeared on screen, his bridge filled with smoke. "Captain, hold position. We're coming for you." "Negative, Horizon Seeker," the Olympus captain replied. "Our hull's compromised. We've got maybe 2 minutes before total failure. But we've got one last gift for these bastards." The transmission cut off as the mining vessel turned, its engines flaring bright. The crew watched in awe as the Olympus, carrying its precious cargo of Kalari refugees, drove straight into the heart of the Voraxian formation. At the last moment, its mining cores detonated, the explosion amplified by the crystalline growths on the enemy ships. When the light faded, a quarter of the Voraxian fleet was gone. "Message from the surface," James reported, his voice thick. "Last group of civilians is loaded. Mining ships beginning final ascent." Eleanor nodded, fighting back tears for the crew of the Olympus. "All ships, cover their retreat. Everything we've got. Show these Voraxians what humanity does when we decide something is worth fighting for." The battle raged for hours more, a dance of desperation and determination. The human fleet took heavy losses, but for every ship they lost, they ensured dozens of Kalari made it to safety. The Voraxians, faced with tactics they'd never encountered and a foe that refused to follow conventional military doctrine, found their numerical advantage slowly eroding. As the last mining ship cleared the atmosphere, Eleanor gave the final order. "All ships, execute jump protocols. Get our people out of here. One by one, the surviving vessels of the human fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, carrying with them thousands of crystalline refugees and the proof that sometimes the strongest warriors are those who were never meant to fight at all. The Horizon Seeker was the last to leave. As they prepared to jump, Eleanor looked one last time at the Kalari homeworld, now mostly dark save for the fires of destruction. They hadn't been able to save the planet, but they'd saved its people. And in doing so, they'd shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons or its ships, but in its unwavering determination to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Jump, she ordered quietly, and the Horizon Seeker disappeared into the depths of space, carrying its precious cargo toward an uncertain but hopeful future. Deep in the unmapped regions of space, orbiting a binary star system, lay humanity's best-kept secret. The planet New Haven shimmered beneath its purple-tinged atmosphere, its vast crystalline canyons now home to thousands of Kalari refugees. The surviving ships of the rescue fleet maintained a constant patrol around the system, their crews ever vigilant for signs of Varaxian pursuit. The Horizon Seeker hung in low orbit, its hull still bearing scars from the rescue operation. In her quarters, Captain Eleanor Ross reviewed the latest reports from the surface. The integration of the Kalari refugees was proceeding, but not without challenges. "Captain," Dart announced, "Dr. Thompson and Elder Lasara request your presence in the Valley settlement." The transport beam deposited Eleanor in what the humans had dubbed Crystal Valley. The settlement was a stunning fusion of human ingenuity and Kalari crystal-shaping abilities. Geodesic domes housed hydroponic gardens, while crystalline spires grew from the canyon walls, serving as both homes and power collectors for the growing colony. Dr. Olivia Thompson waited with Elder Lasara, the latter's crystalline form shifting through shades of deep blue and violet, colors Eleanor had learned indicated both concern and hope. "Captain," the Elder's harmonic voice resonated, "we have made a discovery that may change everything." 6 months after the rescue of the Kalari, the Horizon Seeker underwent its final transformation. Its hull now shimmered with crystalline integrations, a fusion of human engineering and Kalari crystal tech that made it nearly unrecognizable. Captain Eleanor Ross stood on the bridge, watching as similar transformations spread across the combined fleet that now protected New Haven. "Varaxian fleet detected," Dart announced, its artificial consciousness now enhanced by Kalari quantum computing. 47 capital ships, 200 support vessels. "They're following the trail we let them find." Eleanor nodded. The decision to leak their location had been unanimous among both human and Kalari leadership. The Varaxian Empire's ideology of genetic purity couldn't survive if they allowed New Haven to flourish. This confrontation was inevitable. "All ships report ready," Commander Petrov confirmed. The defensive fleet had grown. Alongside the surviving human vessels were ships from 7 other species, all transformed by Kalari crystal tech and human innovation. The Arcturian dreadnoughts are in position. Centaurian stealth ships are cloaked and waiting. "Elder Lasara's signal is coming through," Lieutenant Chun reported. The Kalari Elder appeared on the main screen, her crystalline form glowing with determination. "The surface defenses are primed, Captain Ross. Our children are safe in the deep shelters. Whatever happens today, you have already given us more than we could have dreamed, a future for our species, and hope for the galaxy." Eleanor addressed the combined fleet. "You all know why we're here. The Varaxians believe that difference must be destroyed, that uniformity equals strength. Today we prove them wrong. Today we show them that our greatest power comes from our diversity, from combining our unique strengths. Human determination, Kalari crystal tech, Arcturian energy weapons, Centaurian stealth systems, together we are stronger than any empire built on fear and hatred." The Varaxian fleet dropped out of FTL in a dramatic display of force, their black ships blotting out the stars. Their Supreme Commander's transmission was immediate and predictable. "This is your final warning. Surrender the crystal aberrations, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will ensure your extinction is remembered as a lesson to all who would defy the natural order." Eleanor smiled. "Let's give them our answer. Execute Operation Unity." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations across the galaxy. The Varaxian fleet, expecting to find a handful of refugee ships, instead met an entirely new form of warfare. Crystal-enhanced human vessels phased through their formations, their modified weapons shattering enemy shields. Arcturian dreadnoughts channeled their energy weapons through Kalari crystals, multiplying their power tenfold. "They're attempting to establish a blockade pattern," Diana reported from Tactical. "Just as we predicted." "Signal the Centaurians," Eleanor ordered. "Time for Phase 2. The cloaked Centaurian ships decloaked within the Varaxian formation, their hulls erupting in crystalline growths that spread to nearby enemy vessels. The crystals, programmed with combined human and Kalari ingenuity, began transforming the Varaxian ships from within. "Their weapons are failing," James announced with satisfaction. "Crystal transformation is spreading through their fleet faster than they can contain it." The Varaxian Supreme Commander's voice came through again, this time tinged with panic. "What have you done? This is impossible. We are pure. We are superior." "No," Eleanor responded. "You're just afraid. Afraid of anything different, anything you don't understand. But difference isn't weakness, it's the source of true strength." Marcus's voice came from engineering, triumphant. "Crystal resonance at maximum. Ready for the final phase, Captain." Eleanor took a deep breath. "All ships, initiate Crystal Symphony." Every vessel in the defensive fleet activated their crystal integrations simultaneously. The energy wave that pulsed out was visible to the naked eye, a rippling wave of iridescent power. Where it touched the Varaxian ships, their transformed crystal components responded, creating a cascading reaction that swept through their entire fleet. When the light faded, the mighty Varaxian armada hung motionless in space, their ships transformed into crystalline sculptures, their crews trapped in stasis fields of their own converted technology. "Enemy fleet is neutralized," Commander Petrov reported, his voice filled with awe. "No casualties on either side. The crystal stasis fields are stable." Eleanor stood, addressing both her crew and their allies. "Take their crews into custody. When they wake up, they're going to see a very different galaxy than the one they tried to conquer. A galaxy where diversity is celebrated, where different species work together, where strength comes from cooperation rather than conquest." In the months that followed, the impact of the battle spread across known space. The Varaxian Empire, faced with the utter defeat of their supreme fleet, began to fracture. Systems under their control, inspired by the example of New Haven, rose up in rebellion. The Galactic Council, shamed by their earlier inaction, began reforms to ensure the protection of all sentient species, regardless of their form. 1 year to the day after first receiving the Kalari distress call, Eleanor stood in Crystal Valley, watching the sunset with Elder Lysara. The settlement had grown into a thriving metropolis, a shining example of cooperation between species. The Crystal Towers now housed research centers where scientists from dozens of worlds worked together, learning from each other's differences rather than fearing them. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Lysara asked, her crystal form shimmering with joy. "When you first heard our call for help?" Eleanor shook her head. "We just knew we had to help. Everything else, the technology, the alliances, the changes in the galaxy, that all came from simply choosing to do what was right." Above them, the Horizon Seeker gleamed in orbit, no longer just an exploration vessel but a symbol of what was possible when different species worked together. Its crystal-enhanced hull caught the light of the setting binary suns, sending rainbow refractions across the valley. The Varaxians were right about one thing, Eleanor mused. This will be remembered as a lesson. Not a lesson in extinction, but a lesson in hope. In the power of standing up for what's right, of seeing the value in our differences, of choosing to protect those who need help. Lasara's colors shifted to a deep, warm gold. You humans taught us something we never expected to learn. Sometimes the greatest strength isn't in physical power or advanced technology. It's in the simple courage to look at something different from yourself and see not a threat, but a friend. As night fell over New Haven, ships from dozens of worlds moved through the sky above, their crystal-enhanced hulls twinkling like new constellations. They were more than just vessels now, they were reminders that in a vast and often dangerous galaxy, hope could spring from the most unexpected sources. That sometimes the greatest heroes weren't the most powerful or the most numerous, but simply those who chose to stand up when others stepped back. The legacy of humanity's choice to protect the Kalari would echo through generations, a testament to the power of compassion, courage, and the strength that comes from embracing diversity rather than fearing it. In the end, that was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, not their technology or their tactics, but their unwavering belief that being different wasn't a weakness to be eliminated, but a strength to be celebrated.